Andrew's here at the Baking Steel Studio, and we are making bagels today on our baking steel. It's going to be epic. We're going to jump right into this, and then there's a lot of steps. There's a great recipe we're going to share. It's from our book, Baking with Steel, and we're going to make dough. We're going to ball our dough up. We're going to let it ferment for a day, and we're going to boil them, and then we're going to bake them and do all of the above. Super simple, just more steps than we're used to with our dough. But again, really easy to do. Flour. I have my baking steel dough container. I have 500 grams of bread flour in my basket. And now we grab a whisk. I got right here, and we're going to add 6 grams of sea salt. So I just kind of put it in my hand, throw it in my basket here, boom. Not a lot of salt. And I can add my sugar here as well. I believe it's 8 grams of sugar. Don't quote me on this. Not super critical, 8 to 10 grams, right? And now I'm going to whisk this first. Before I do anything else, just kind of whisk it up. I can shake these containers, which I love. This is the baking steel dough container, which is amazing. So whisk it up pretty good. And now what I'm going to do is add 2 grams of yeast, 1 gram of yeast, 1 or 2 grams of yeast. So that's about this. That's probably a little heavy. Let's see. My scale is not going to quite measure that. I don't have my micro scale. My batteries are dead. Once I put my yeast in, this is active dry yeast, I whisk it again. So this dough is unlike our pizza dough, is a 60% hydration. So it's got 6 parts water to 1 part flour, or 60%, sorry, 60%. Our pizza dough is 70%, so it's more hydrated. It's less hydrated than our pizza dough, so it's a little less sticky. So I'll tear up my scale again, take my filtered water, I'm going to add 300 grams. So 300 divided by 500 is 60%. And that's how we get to that formula. So I got this neat trick here. Put my dough container here, put my scale aside. Here's my dough container. I close it up. Something I just started doing like not that long ago. I kind of just shake it back and forth. Just to hydrate that flour and water together. Right? Just to give it a little head start. After about 30 seconds, you can see almost looks like pie dough at this point, right? And now I can just kind of mix it with my hands and press. And I just keep doing this pressing motion for 2 or 3 minutes. Again, this is a little different than our pizza dough because it doesn't have as much water, so it's a little more dry. And by that, I mean, it's just not going to be as sticky as our pizza dough. So actually a little bit easier to handle. So I do this for 2 or 3 minutes. I keep scraping the sides so I get all of the flour combined to make one big mass. Scrape those sides, stick it in, press it down, press it in. All right, just keep doing this. You can see I've got one big mass of dough. Looks like this. Isn't that cool? And I can do this for a couple of more minutes. I'm going to stop just for the sake of class. And next, what I'll do, I'm going to close this up, set this aside. So I let this ferment and proof now for 24 hours overnight. That's it. If I'm going away for a day or two, I can take this flour and put it in my fridge, ferment it for 2 or 3 days. But for bagels, 24 hours is very adequate. These are amazing. This is it. So my dough is done. I will put this on the counter and ferment it 24 hours. Next, I'm going to take that dough out and remove it. And I make my dough, that makes, so it's 500 grams of flour, 300 grams of water. That makes about 800 grams. There's a little bit of salt, a little bit of sugar, but for round numbers, 800 grams of dough. To me, my bagels are about 100 grams. So we make about 8 bagels. So you divide that out. The next day, we're gonna make our dough balls. So I have some dough I made yesterday. I'll remove 100 grams. This is what it looks like. And now I'm gonna make a dough ball. So let me show you how I do that. I'll flour it up, right? So you can see what I'm doing here. Flour that up, both sides so it doesn't get sticky. And now I'm just gonna take this dough and fold it in half and then turn, just like a pizza dough, make it a ball. Press in and close. I'll try to get up close here so you can see what I'm doing. If it sticks to my hands at all, flour those up. I press it in and close and then turn. Press in, close, and then turn. I do this, you can see I've got the smooth side always in my facing my chest, which is this way. I've got the seam side, hello, right, facing out. And I just press in lightly. It's not a stress ball, and then turn. Each time I do this, I'm getting a little bit of the air out, and I'm making it more and more taut and close. And I do that about 20 times. It doesn't notice how it's not sticking to my hands, and I'm not ripping these glutens apart. I'm just pressing it. And next what I'll do, I'll take the smooth side, place it in my palm, and then I can be a little aggressive here. I'm gonna pinch that closed, and now I've got this really nice dough ball. Just like that. I'll place those back into my container, or I'll cover them on a sheet tray with plastic wrap. Just dust a little flour on top. And those will proof for about 2, maybe 3 hours. And then we're gonna make our bagels. So let's go right into this. So let's fast forward about 3 hours. In fact, let me show you the difference between one that I just balled up, and I'll take the same size dough. You grab my spatula here. And you can see I've got one here. I get that round again, right? Same size. This has been proofing for 3 hours. This has been proofing for about 1 minute. Let's make the bagel. So I'm going to put this back into my proofing box. For the bagel, okay, flour up your hands. There's a couple of ways of doing this. We're going like new school. We're going to literally take my thumb and just poke a hole right through it, just like this. Okay, poke a hole right through it. Just like that. And I could go, now I'm going to take that hole and just take both fingers and just do this. Right? And you can see I've got a form of a bagel. I'm going to let this rest for about 10 minutes, but I'm not going to do it for class, just to let it relax again. Hole in the middle, and I just did it like this, right? Just to widen that circle a little bit. I'll place it back down on its sheet tray. Can you see here? It's going to place it here, and I'm going to let that rest for 10 minutes. Meanwhile, behind me, I have a pot of water that I'm boiling. I've added 2 tablespoons of baking soda to help get this thing some color. And I added a sweetener, some Mike's Hot Honey, into my water. After 10 minutes, I'm going to take, and I'm going to do this now, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to take my bagel, right? I'm going to put it in the water carefully. Boom. I'm going to boil that for about 30 seconds to a minute on each side. And I'm not going to time it. I'm going to use my intuition, okay? I'm going to do this for 30 seconds on each side. Meanwhile, my oven is preheating at 425. I have a baking steel on the bottom rack, bottom to middle rack. I'm going to flip this over now. Carefully flip it over, and you can do 2 or 3 at a time. My baking steel has been preheating for an hour at 425. I'm going to take a piece of parchment paper, and after this bagel has boiled for a minute, I'm going to put it back on the parchment paper. It's a little bit wet. You guys see this here? If I'm going to add seasoning, sesame seeds, poppy seeds, now is the time to do it, because the dough, you can see how it's a little bit wet still. that those seeds will stick beautifully at this point. Now, I'm making these for my kids. They don't want seeds. So what I'll do is, after this is boiled, I'm going to place this parchment right in my oven at 425. I'm going to do that right now. I'm using my hands. Boom. I'm going to bake this for, let's see here. I like to do 6 minutes and 6 minutes. After 6 minutes, I'm going to open the oven up and rotate it a little bit. If I'm doing several, it's easy. I put my sheet tray, my parchment paper right on top of my baking steel. I could also put my sheet tray of bagels right on top of my baking steel. Because I'm only doing a couple at a time here. Using parchment is easy. I could launch with my peel if I wanted to. I didn't. But let's look at I made a bagel before class. You guys can see it here. It's gorgeous, right? Beautiful color all around. Just a little flour stuck in the bottom. It's really nice. And I can make my cream cheese, my sandwiches with these beautiful bagels. The kids will devour them every time. Super easy, super fun. A 12 to 15 minute bake on my steel. I'm using convection. Let's get to some questions. Awesome. Anybody have any questions? Jump in there, please. You must have some kind of question. Someone must have a question. If you haven't made, Becky, how about you? Do you have anything you want to add into this? They're really easy to make, guys. Don't be shy. Super fun. Let's go through the recipe, and I'm going to go on to my site so I don't miss anything on this recipe for you. You guys can hear exactly what it is. 500 grams of bread flour, 12 grams of sugar, 6 grams of sea salt, 1 gram active dry yeast, 300 grams of water. The next day, I boil my water. I use 2 tablespoons of baking soda. I use 2 tablespoons of Mike's Hot Honey. And that is my, my recipe. So I do that, and this is what I make. Phenomenal, right? Super fun. Right. It is intimidating, the boiling water. Like, what do we do that for? Just to help give this thing that color, right? And the skin, the shape. It's awesome. And that skin is really nice. It's like a bagel, right? It's like a bagel. And like, I didn't let this one sit for 10 minutes first, but you can. Seating them up is nice too. Is the inside temp? Yeah, let's take a look. Let's go inside. Let's cut this open and see what it looks like. It feels like it. I'm working at the wrong kind of knife here. I'm working around it. It's getting there. Because we don't have a lot of water in it, it's going to be just as dense. I need a bagel slicer, right? Need a bagel slicer. Boom, there's our bagel. Awesome. More dense than our pizza dough would be because it's got less water, so it's got more like bread-like texture, which I think is what you're looking for. Definitely bagels. My kids love them. So I hope, yeah, it's great. Super easy, guys. They're like intimidating because of the boiling water. There's just more steps. However, the boiling water is like, you know, people say use a perforated spoon. I'm using a spatula like this just to kind of flip it over. It's not hard. It might get a little stuck to your parchment paper. Let them dry a little bit first before you put them on the parchment. Like, kind of do a little shake like this before you, like, you know, get excess water off if you can. And then again, if you're seeding, that's the time to do it. It's great. Anybody else have any questions? Boom, boom. So good. Is the inside texture? Yeah, we just got to that one. Boiling, great. And a lot of people didn't show up. I think there was an issue. Sorry about that. We'll follow up tomorrow with an email. Anybody has any questions? In the meantime, give me a holler, Andrus at Baking Steel, live from the studio. And thank you guys for being here. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Awesome. Bye.